is Jay King from The Athletic. He is Brian B. Robb from MassLive.com. I am Jam Packard, and together we are Still Poddable! This is the free episode. Thanks to the folks at CLNS for broadcasting this on their YouTube channel. This is the free version of the Monday through Friday podcast. If you want the rest of the Still Poddable episodes, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. You could become a kid, a god, or a legend and join an amazing Celtics fan community where we are releasing fantastic episodes every single day, Monday through Friday. This is the free episode, and we are coming to you on just a wild day of NBA news. Not all of it really Celtics related, but it's definitely Celtics adjacent, as teams at the top of the Eastern Conference are making moves. The biggest move, the most shocking move. I dumbfounded, guffawed when I saw this notification pop up on my Twitter. The Bucks fired Adrian Griffin about 45 games into the season. He had a 70% winning percentage. Just a kind of shocking move that I didn't see coming. Rumors are that Doc Rivers, old friend Doc Rivers, might be coming in to replace him, but that has not been confirmed yet. Jay King live from South Beach, where he's there to cover the Celtics playing the Heat on Thursday night. What was your reaction to this Bucks firing of their coach, Adrian Griffin?
I mean, I was shocked just because of the timing of it. I believe 43 games into his coaching tenure, and record-wise, a very successful tenure. But the rumblings from there, and by that I mean what Giannis was saying after games in post-game press conference, let you know that there were things wrong and that they didn't believe in Adrian Griffin, and that the players there, or at least the most important player there, did not think he had a cohesive plan especially on defense. I believe one of the quotes Giannis had was like, "What are we taking away?
What are we doing?
Do we know what we're supposed to be? Do we know what we're supposed to do on the defensive end of the court?" And that kind of lets you know something was really wrong, because Giannis doesn't normally do stuff like that. The Doc Rivers piece is really interesting because, like, I'm not. I want to put this delicately.
You don't believe
I'm not
in Doc
convinced.
Rivers as a playoff coach.
I'm not convinced he's an elite level coach, but I do know that he can come in and command some respect and at least sort of get the locker room together. It's such a weird situation, though. Sounds like such a weird situation where Adrian Griffin in his first year, all of a sudden he has to deal with Doc Rivers as a consultant to the head coach, knowing that Doc Rivers won't be out of coaching for long, knowing that Doc Rivers is probably looking for another head coaching job himself.
Wait,
that
Doc
was just a bizarre situation
this whole time, just like phoning him up and
like the last month or so, he served as a consultant for Adrian Griffin, which kind of seems like a little stab in the back move from Doc Rivers. And maybe he didn't know that it would end up with him taking the job, but if he does take the job, it looks pretty suspect on his end. But yeah, it's just kind of a huge undertaking for the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the three best teams in the Eastern Conference, to go through, at the midpoint of the season.
Yeah, and I mean, it's shades of what? It's like David Blatt's really the only comparable situation, right? With the Cavs back in.
But he was in his second year, right?
Yes, you're right. He got them to the finals that first year.
Yeah, but in that first year, LeBron was like scratching out his ATO plays and writing his own. Like, there wasn't a high level of respect here. It felt like Griffin was at least had to be approved by Giannis initially. I guess, was the defense that bad, B-Rob? I mean, was it the Terry Stotts thing? What do you think was going on there?
Yeah, there are all sorts of red flags, but the Stotts was certainly the big one. Like, that was supposed to be his top assistant. And so for a guy like that, who obviously is well respected around the league, to just back away from it before the season even started, be like, you know what, this isn't working for whatever reason. And whatever that was, we may never know, but that certainly wasn't good. And then we saw it firsthand in Boston in that first matchup. Like Giannis, like trying to like pretty much saying no to subbing himself out of the game, and that sort of stuff we just never saw from Giannis with under Coach Bud. And so that is that when you factor that in with the quotes that Jay talked about, there just seem to be all sorts of things going on. But by all accounts, like I believe it was, I'm not sure if it was Mark Stein. There's reporting today that's saying like Griffin got the job because Giannis didn't want Nick Nurse initially this summer. And so that was a way to kind of, he pushed for Griffin instead. But I guess this kind of tells you like, well, you probably shouldn't like go with just the coach that your star wants, because he might decide in 2 months later that he just doesn't want him if he doesn't know him well. And that's seemingly what happened.
But at least when things go wrong, you can say, this is a guy you wanted. Whereas if they had gone with Nick Nurse instead and things had gone wrong, they would have had nowhere to hide. They would have had nothing to say to Giannis. The Terry Stotts thing, in retrospect, the Terry Stotts thing was like an enormous red flag. You can't. The biggest role of a head coach in the NBA, probably beyond all the X's and O's stuff, is mentalities. There are so many different factors, so many different ways that people are trying to pull you, and you have to be able to manage everybody's ego, to manage everybody's desires, to effectively communicate what you want to do and what you need from them. And Terry Stotts leaving shortly after training camp was just a kind of a wow moment, because that hardly ever happens. I can't remember another situation where the top assistant just pieced out because he didn't see eye to eye with the head coach. And when that guy not only is your top assistant, but also is the person who coached Damian Lillard for years and years, and can be sort of like a confidant for Damian Lillard, and you lose that guy, that was a very bad sign in retrospect. It's crazy that they moved on from him now, but I kind of respect it, because the window there is small. And if you don't think Adrian Griffin is the coach right now to win a championship, then who knows when they'll get a better chance in this. Chris Middleton has dealt with injuries. He's getting older. Brook Lopez, what is he, 35? I'm not sure exactly what age he is, but he's getting older. They won't have many chances with this group to win a championship. And so if you think he's not ready to win a championship this year, even if you think he's going to end up being a good coach and figuring out everything that's gone wrong so far this year, you just don't have time to waste.
But why bring him in the first place? Like, what first year head coach is going to be ready to be like at the championship level in the first place? It's kind of wild. The Bucks have the second best offense in the NBA. They're 10th in total net rating. And like, this guy's taking all the blame for their terrible roster on defense. Like, when Damian Lillard's out there and Wesley Matthews are part of your starting five, you're not going to have a very good defense. And obviously something was wrong there, but it feels like there's some issues here just with pure roster construction. Thanasis is on the team for some reason. No one's talking about that. It just feels like a lot of blame on one guy for an organizational failure. But I guess like that's why you have a scapegoat in this case. But does this fix anything? Like, if they're still going to be starting Damian Lillard and Wesley Matthews, and there's like, I don't know if Doc Rivers comes in. I don't know what old reliable Joe Prunty is going to do. Third time interim head coach. If he's going to really like create a lot of changes here, it feels like it's
Joe Prunty was born as an interim head coach. That dude, he was absolutely meant to be an interim head coach. Never a real head coach, but just forever an interim head coach.
And maybe that's the fix that the Bucks need. But it's just like, I don't know if this. Obviously, the Giannis quotes where he's like, what do we do? Like, where he couldn't articulate what they were trying to do on defense is a bad look for Adrian Griffin. But I do think there's like just an inherent roster construction flaw that is just not going to be patched over by bringing in Joe Prunty or Doc Rivers, or, we bring back Budenholzer. Like, I don't know what you're going to do when you still have some less than defenders in the starting lineup and not a very deep bench, because you traded away some of your good pieces to get Damian Lillard. It just feels like a a desperate move that we probably don't have all the information for, but
well, they should be desperate though, right?
I mean, all NBA teams should be desperate.
should be.
I don't know if they're, but like, is this going to result in the change that they want?
Damian Lillard is an older guy. Like, that core is just old, and there's not much talent around that core. You have to put them in the best position to win right away. And so I see them as a team that should be desperate. And obviously the record is pretty good, but like you said, 10th in net rating, that's not the profile of a contender. That's just not. Like, they have not played like a team that's going to compete for a championship. And maybe they could have. Look, I mean, you could take it back 2 years with the Celtics. Ime Udoka for the first half of the season, people would have argued, does this guy know what the fuck he's doing? I don't really know. He certainly hasn't turned them around. They're playing terrible basketball, and then all of a sudden it clicked. And so Adrian Griffin was not afforded that time. But I think the biggest piece is that he clearly was not able to command the respect and build relationships with the people in that organization who matter.
Giannis.
And that includes Terry Stotts. That includes Giannis. That probably includes Damian Lillard. Like, you have to have good relationships with those guys. And if you can't do that, and your team is underperforming, or what you think is underperforming, and the defense is Swiss cheese, and your star players going out and bashing your strategy on that end of the court, then you might be in trouble. And it's aggressive to do it so early, but they have, like, there's serious pressure to win immediately with this team. And that's part of the reason why I think Doc Rivers might be a good fit. One of the best things he did with the Celtics in 2008 was convince all those guys, we don't have time to wait. This is not a window thing. Like, this is not, let's mesh in the first year, win in the second. This might be your only opportunity. And with that group, I feel like there has to be a similar urgency, just because of the ages of those guys and the fact that you're not sure how much longer that core can be super effective together.
That is fair. And is Giannis a diva at this point? Is that a legitimate question we can ask, where it's like he has the power just to fire a coach in the middle of the season just because he's not getting along with it? Or is that the power that we just expect all NBA MVP level players to have, B-Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is strictly a decision that was on the players, I think. And they clearly weren't getting the buy-in into Griffin that the decision makers wanted to see. And I think with Giannis's quotes, that tells a story there. You can go online. Bobby Portis, they had the reported blow up after the in-season tournament where he kind of can win at Griffin in the locker room. So when you have enough of those rumblings, I'm sure there were tens of more stories we haven't heard about yet along those lines. But when you're barely beating the likes of the Pistons in a couple straight games, I guess that's enough with the straw that broke the camel's back here. And I guess we'll get to this after the break here. What I want to ask you guys about is just from a Celtics perspective, is this good news or bad news? From a standpoint of, like, they're this dysfunctional that they had to do this and it's going to be really tough for them to figure things out? Or is this a chance for them to kind of rally the troops and figure things out? So
before we answer that question, let's take a break and hear from our friends at FanDuel.
NFL season is wrapping up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Now, the app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Welcome back to Still Poddable. We're with Jay King, Brian, B-Rob, Rob. I am Jam Packard. If you want more Still Poddable, go to patreon.com/Still Poddable and subscribe today. The question was, Jay King, what does this move mean for the Celtics? Rapid fire, quick, good or bad?
Probably a toss-up. Look,
I gave you two options.
Look,
Jay.
it's
Get off that fence.
It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that Adrian Griffin was never going to figure things out, that he wasn't actually built to be a head coach, that the complaints of Giannis and whoever else there wasn't thrilled with him are real. But at bringing on a new coach and having a new coach come in and in the middle of the season overhaul everything is such a tough ask. And I know that the Cavaliers did it with David Blatt and Ty Lue came in and figured everything out. But that team was infinitely more talented than everybody else in the Eastern Conference at that stage. And you just had to figure out like how to mesh a team that was absolutely the most talented team. I don't think this Bucks roster is the most talented. They don't have much defensive-minded personnel. They don't have scorers beyond their top 3, including Middleton. I guess Lopez, you can throw him in there if you want. I don't know if he's really a scorer as much as he is a complementary piece with three-point shooting and occasional post-ups. But to me, it's not a deep roster. The guys at the like Giannis is amazing, but is Lillard still at the level he was even a few years ago? I'm not sure. Middleton has dealt with injuries. Like there's just a lot wrong with this roster, and so it's a huge challenge for whatever coach does come in. If it's Doc, if it's whoever else, it's just there's a lot to figure out there. There's a lot to patch together and a lot of flaws to overcome.
Thank you for that quickie, snappy answer that I was looking for, Jay. B-Rob, how do you think this affects the Celtics, if at all?
I think it's a very good sign for the Celtics. To echo what Jay said, Ty Lue kind of did it in Cleveland, but he was there. Like he was the right-hand man in Cleveland. Like, and I don't think they're going to go with the Prunster to.
Well, Doc has been the consultant.
That's true. Doc has been at least in the weeds, not on the bench, but certainly. Perhaps in a Jeff Van Gundy type of role beneath the shadows with Milwaukee there, at least for the last month. So you're right. Like maybe he has a little bit more knowledge going into it than we know about to this point. But yeah, it's a brand new team, a lot of new pieces, a flawed roster as a whole. To your point, Packard, like this is not going to fix that part of it. And maybe they make a move in the next week or two, but they don't have much assets left to address their defensive issues there. So I'm very much this is like. This is a desperate Bucks team, and that bodes well for the Celtics.
Do either of you guys want to make a quick statement? It's good for the Celtics. It's chaos in Milwaukee. Disaster in Milwaukee, as our friend Scoob is saying in the comments. Good for the Celtics. Now, other Eastern Conference teams are making moves. I think this is a bit more tangible. We have the Miami Heat trading Kyle Lowry in a 2027 first-round pick for old friend Terry Rozier. Will quickly slide in and become the starting point guard for the Miami Heat. Personally, I don't like this because Terry Rozier is cool and the Heat stink and Heat culture is obnoxious. But just from a pure X's and O's standpoint, I just think this is a solid move for the Heat. Me and B-Rob talked about it a little yesterday. We were just doing some prediction on yesterday's episode of Still Poddable. But Terry Rozier playing the best basketball of his career. The Heat have always kind of struggled to score in their half-court offense. And so, Jay, what was your reaction to Scary Terry, Tito Three Sticks, moving to South Beach?
It seems like a really important addition for them. Rozier's been playing great basketball. He's averaging like 24 points a game, close to it. He's become a very good three-point shooter, especially off the dribble. I think he's shooting 45%. I think I saw that on Twitter today that he's shooting 45% on threes off the dribble so far. Just needed more offensive firepower to me. They do a really good job with guards, like smaller perimeter defenders who can just kind of get after you and be point of attack defenders. And they don't necessarily have to be these big physical pieces, but we saw it with Kyle Lowry, with Caleb Martin, with Gabe Vincent, like just smaller guys who can get up into you, force you to be uncomfortable, let Spoelstra's scheme take care of the rest. And he fits into that mold. He's a tough guy. He really looks beautiful sometimes when he's rebounding the basketball. Just flies for rebounds sometimes.
I like it. Beautiful is the right word to describe it.
It's just a beautiful rebounder. But yeah, I think it's a good move for them. I don't think it puts them into like a total different stratosphere, but it plugs some of their holes, and they're gonna like Lowry's. He's been really good for them, and his attitude, his work ethic, his insistence on always making the right play will be missed.
Him being
But they just
incredibly
needed
annoying and just like getting under the skin of every single team he plays against.
Exactly. But they needed a talent upgrade on the offensive end. And so I think Rozier is a good one.
Yeah, Lowry had reached the point of his career now where he just wasn't looking to shoot much anymore beyond taking the threes. And that's a team, Jimmy Butler takes them to a different level offensively in the playoffs, but over an 82-game grind, there's, a lot of, with all the injuries they've had, there just hasn't been enough consistency there. They've lost 3 in a row. I thought the price here for Miami wasn't terrible. I mean, Rozier still got 2 more years on that deal. Miami is really never bad, so they're just only giving up 1 first-round pick, and Lowry's contract, which certainly wasn't worth much at this point, is a good net positive for them, and they still have enough stuff to add there. So and the competition to stay out of the play-in tournament is very real in the East this year. Like you got 4 or 5 teams battering for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in those slots. So this is a move that helps them keep pace with the Knicks talent level there after they made their deals. But yeah, Rozier, I don't know, the juice of the the Celtics Heat games are always been fun. Adding Rozier to that mix now is great. Like, and the fact that they might play them in that opening on Thursday in his first game, I love that, because that's just a guy that I feel like Celtics fans have always been drawn to, and adding him into the mix there should be a lot of fun.
I did see a great meme. I'll just do a verbal. Tito 3 sticks because he was Terry Rozier the third. But Celtics fans are much more upset with Terry Rozier going to Miami than they were with Damian Lillard going to Milwaukee. Like, there's just much more fear, and so many comments and tweets I saw. There's like, it's pretty much guaranteed that Terry Rozier is going to score 35 points in a playoff game against the Boston Celtics. I could see it. He's too cool for school. And then I saw someone just say, like, yeah, except Terry Rozier is like always just a clutch shooter and going to knock down shots. And then I had people tweeting at, he was 0 for 10 from 3 in that game 7 against the Cavs. And they could have used at least one of those. It really would have been a much closer game. And I think that was on the same night the Rockets missed 26 threes in a row as well. Just a wild night of game 7s. But I do kind of like the spice of adding Terry Rozier to the rivalry. As much as I hate Heat culture, and as much as I think Terry Rozier is above Heat culture, I think he fits in pretty well with just like the swagger. And I don't think this applies to Terry, but I think it applies to the rest of the team. The general douchebaggery of the Miami Heat, I think Terry can fit in quite well there. And I think it's just a good mix on and off the court. So I'm looking forward to the matchup on Thursday. Before we get to more news, we're going to hear from myself talking about Factor. Started on your resolutions with Factor, so you're ready for the new year. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door with over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan plus veggie, and more. Plus, over 55 weekly add-ons. You'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your New Year resolutions. Factor is cheaper than takeout and much better tasting food. So if you just want that occasional meal, or if you want to plan your entire week, you can go to factormeals.com/winning50 and use code winning50 to get 50% off. That's code winning50 at factormeals.com/winning50 to get 50% off. It's an absolute steal. That is factormeals.com/winning50 with promo code winning50 and you get 50% off. Welcome back to Still Poddable. If you want the full Still Poddable experience, that means every episode, Monday through Friday, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Jay, you are live in South Beach. You are maxing, relaxing even. I'll give you dealer's choice of what you want to talk about next. Could be Team USA. It could be Tristan Thompson, or it could just be your impression of the Celtics as they beat the Mavericks a couple nights ago in Dallas. What's on your brain?
Team USA. Derek White is on the list. Big day for Derek White, for the Derek White Hive.
Drew Holiday also on the list. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown also on the list.
But you kind of expected those guys to be on the list, right? Like they've been involved in the past with Team USA. Derek White is on that list too, and he had to earn his way up there. He had to earn his way into. I guess he's been part of it too in the past. He was on Team USA.
Select teams, right?
With all no, he was.
You're right.
He was on with all the
You're right. He was on that team
when it was Kemba and all those guys. So maybe I shouldn't be.
So really, this isn't a story at
the
all.
Derek White
This is
injury.
just a basic announcement of guys who have been there before still being on the team. Terrible pick, Jay. I should have never
And
left
so-
you in charge.
No, we already crossed that one off the list. Now we go on to the next one. That's how you pick podcasting categories.
All right, what's the next one? Do you want to
I
talk
don't-
about Tristan Thompson getting suspended for 25 games, or do you want to talk about the Boston Celtics here on this?
Are we
Boston Celtics
surprised? Is
podcast?
anyone surprised by Tristan Thompson getting whacked for juicing?
No, I
He
wouldn't.
was as I'll say it. He was as useless gets for the Celtics, and then he was on the ESPN panel, and all of a sudden he's playing decent minutes for the Cavs.
All right, well, now we know how
but
he got back.
I wasn't buying it. I wasn't buying it in the first place. So this is not the most shocking. He would have been on the short list of guys. Like if I had to guess people who might be juicing, Tristan Thompson probably would have been among them.
I feel like when was the last time a guy was caught juicing and getting a suspension like this? I can't even. I mean, it's obviously happened, but certainly not in a while. But like he looked like he was done 3 years ago, and so for him to actually be playing meaningful minutes as he 3 years after he could barely move when he was in Boston, it's not.
Kevin O'Connor had the last laugh after all.
We'll wait for that tweet. He's probably waiting to fire that one out here, but don't miss waiting around 2 hours after games to talk to him. That's for sure.
Fender is right in the comments. I think it was DeAndre Ayton who got napped for 25 games for some sort of illegal substance. But that's all I have. I don't really know how juicing really helps you in the NBA. I guess it helps recovery and weightlifting. But John Collins too. Apparently the whole league.
Collins, that's right.
We need Senate committees to investigate this, like they did with baseball in the 90s. That's all I got to say about that. Jay, before we got to go, I do want to hear, you were in Dallas. You saw Tim Hardaway Jr. get very upset when they showed Luka Doncic falling on the Jumbotron. I want to hear that story. Plus just your thoughts being there courtside. Dallas media has like the best courtside seats in all of the NBA. So you got a pretty good look at the Celtics in that game. Any stories or takeaways from Dallas that we missed?
Yeah, the Jumbotron thing was funny because so Jalen drops Doncic with the crossover and hits the bucket, and a short while later they show it on the Jumbotron, and I think Markieff Morris was the first Mavericks player to get pissed off, and he yelled something, and then Tim Hardaway got more pissed off, and really pissed off, and I believe he looked over at the scorer's table. But I don't know if the Jumbotron operators were even at the scorer's table.
We're not at the
but he looked over toward the scorer's table and walked over toward the scorer's table and told them not to show that shit. Then asked them, "Are we the home team? Are we on the fucking road?" And just kind of kept going at it for a little while. He was really hot, and I get it. You don't want them to show highlights of the wrong team, but I think I want to believe that whoever made that decision was doing it because they thought there might have been a foul on the play, and they
pushed
they
off.
thought that there was a push off. Yeah. So that would be what I would hope for the operator. Otherwise, it was just a closet Celtics fan who wanted to to show everybody the Jaylen Brown crossover. But that was a hilarious moment.
After the game, Jaylen calling for that man's job, saying that he needs to be fired, which is a wild thing to say. We got someone in the comments saying a Shams nuke in here, and both Jay and I checked our phone. I think everyone checked the phones. There has not been a Shams nuke unless you were 8 hours late to the Adrian Griffin news. We talked about that in the first 20 minutes. But bold stuff in the comments. This is why you can't really trust the internet here. But Jay, how about on the court? What'd you think about the Celtics? Just pretty solid win despite losing every kind of statistical battle in that game other than the free throw line against Doncic, who gave a real pedestrian 33-point triple-double.
I thought that was a great effort from the Celtics. Third game in 4 nights, back-to-back, 11th game in 18 nights, and playing a Mavericks team with plenty of rest. Celtics missed their first 7 threes and just kind of hung around and just kept playing defense, kept grinding. Seemed like they had some attitude to her. I don't know if they don't like Luka or wanted the challenge of Luka or just wanted to show up Grant, but it seemed like a very feisty Celtics effort from Jason Tatum's block of Grant prior to halftime and just kind of the menacing glare he gave him afterward to Jaylen just relentlessly going at Doncic and then saying afterwards that it takes being in great shape to be a two-way player and do it for the whole game, and basically a subtle shot at Doncic's weight. So it seemed, for whatever reason, it seemed personal. It seemed like there was a lot of motivation from the Celtics in that one. And I don't think they always played perfect basketball, but they played really tough basketball. They drew a ton of free throws. They went to the post. They went to the mid-range and just kind of kept going at Doncic until they really controlled the final 3 quarters of that game and never really let up.
Did you catch up with Grant at all?
Yes, I did. Chatted with him before the game. He told me and Sweetie to make sure that we give the Celtics players shit for him.
I don't think you guys are going to do that.
Which we did not. We gave them no shit. So sorry, Grant. We did not deliver for you. But yeah, it was good to see Grant. Seems like he's liking Dallas, liking his place there, and he just wants to kind of get healthy and bounce back from what's been sort of an uneven 2 months for him.
Did you talk to friend of the program, Evan Turner? And if you guys have not, you should go subscribe to Still Poddable right now to see our glorious interview with the real kid, E.T. Did you talk to Evan Turner? Because he was behind the Celtics.
I did not. So the problem with the seats there, which are front row, is that you're literally like right on top of people and there's no room to get out. You got to make sure you go to the bathroom before you get out there. You got to make sure you're able to hold it the whole time you're out there. There's just nowhere to go. And so I would have loved to say hello to Evan Turner, but I was stuck next to Gary Washburn and Sweetie, and there was just nowhere for me to go.
I like both those people, but they're not nearly as entertaining as Evan Turner. But they both have been on Still Poddable. Before we get out of here, fellas, want a prediction, a bold prediction from both of you about this Celtics Heat game coming up on Thursday night. We'll start with you, Brian B. Robb from MassLive.com.
Bold prediction. Terry Rozier is not able to play because Kyle Lowry hasn't reported to Charlotte yet. He tries to posture for his next spot. It's hopefully that's not the case.
I like that prediction.
But that's as this goes down, just go out of left field here. Lowry, maybe kind of angling for a buyout, or going somewhere he wants. It'll be interesting to see. Honestly, the Celtics won't be able to sign Lowry, period, because of his salary. But that's going to be another interesting chip because he is going to land somewhere and probably get to play with some team, a bunch of teams he's not going to play for that have big payrolls. But he'll be another X factor for the playoff run on potentially in the buyout market here.
Jay, can you top that bold prediction with a bold prediction of your own?
Celtics win by 7. Kristaps Porzingis has 32 points.
Ooh.
And they just keep going to him in the post and just letting him take on smaller guys, whether it's Bam or anybody else. I think that's the matchup where Kristaps matters the most. That's the matchup that convinced the Celtics to go out and get Kristaps or a player like him. They needed that solution against Bam Adebayo. They needed that solution against all of Spoelstra's junk defenses. And it's Kristaps' time on Thursday.
My bold prediction is Derek White buzzer beater returning to the Miami Heat arena for the first time since Game 6 last year. He's just going to be feeling all the magic, and we're going to get Derek White, now a member of Team USA, former member of Team USA, but he's still now a member too, knocking down a buzzer against the Miami Heat, and the Celtics keep on rolling into their 7-game home streak, which should be pretty fun. Thank you guys for watching this free version of Still Poddable here on the CLNS YouTube. Again, we are giving you podcast episodes every single day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on a Saturday if the Friday night game is good. We're doing so many different game recaps over on the Patreon. There's multiple different levels, so you can join in at the level that you find works for you the best. That's patreon.com/stillpoddable. Sign up today, and you'll join one of the best Celtics communities and get daily Celtics content Monday through Friday. For Jay King down there in South Beach, for Adam Himmelsbach, who's also down there in South Beach but refuses to come on camera, for Brian Robb from MassLive.com, I am Sam Jam Packard, and you guys have been watching this episode of Still Poddable!